MVP Black and Team Dignitas stake their claim for the mid-season brawl, leaving us with only 2 teams left to determine. I'm Gillyweed here for the 3rd time with Third Guy. Second Guy's here too. How you guys doing?
We're doing all right. I'm already losing track.
I'm scared. I'm worried for that, but hopefully we'll be able to make it through. Caught in luck, Team Dignitas, you're going to get your chance again for a rematch versus them. How'd you think they looked after that last match?
Well, they looked good the whole weekend. I thought Team Liquid kind of pulled it together and looked better in the later stages, but Dignitas has shown that they're still the kings at early game aggression that revolves around picking off heroes.
And Dread, MVP Black beating their sister team MVP Miracle was to be expected, but it was a dominant performance for them to claim the 2nd spot for Korea.
I think it's awesome. You know, the fact that that was a dominant performance, it makes it that much more justified that they were the team that's going to be representing Korea. It's exciting.
Well, now we're moving on to North America to determine between Gale Force eSports and Team 8, who will claim the 2nd spot from our region at the mid-season brawl. Let's take a look at the bracket so far. Team 8 squelched Team Freedom's run through the bracket yesterday with a 3-0 victory. And now we get that hype match of North America, Gale Force eSports versus Team 8. These 2 teams have generally had pretty predictable play styles so far throughout Part 2. We have the macro, undying styles of Team 8, and then the overwhelming global stylings of Gale Force eSports. I want to hear from both of you guys on this. Do you expect either of these teams to greatly deviate from those predictable styles they've shown so far in Part 2? Dread, we'll start with you.
I'm going with yes, but if a team does it, it would only be Gale Force. Just because Gale Force is a team that puts a lot of focus onto their preparation for a series. They projected Team 8 to be the team they're going up against, so they've had an entire week to build these unique strategies. And whenever they do that effectively, they end up upsetting major teams. They even, 3-0ing Tempo Storm with one performance like that. So if that work ethic has gone in here for Gale Force and things go to plan, I really do think that we could see some wild drafts from them.
What do you think, Cawthon?
Yeah, Gale Force has a history of 3-0ing very hard when they have time to prepare for an individual matchup. They've had all the time in the world, like you said, with this week. The times they struggle are when they have 2 matchups in a week against a strong team, or when they drop a game, they tend to lose some confidence and they kind of get dragged out into these like 5-game fests against lower teams. So as long as they can come out and have a strong early dominant game 1, I think they will be in good shape.
Well, as we mentioned, these 2 teams did expect to go up against each other in this match, so let's hear what both teams think about this crucial matchup.
Everyone expects us to kind of play against Team 8. They are the strongest team outside of Gale Force in the playoffs right now overall. The biggest strength for Team 8 for me would have to be their team synergy. I've listened to some of their shot calling and whatnot, and I think that they have very good team synergy because Cloud kind of micros everyone on that team, and they always play pretty precisely because he tells everyone exactly what they should be doing. Our biggest concern is not any of the other teams in the playoffs, but it's probably ourselves. As long as we can show up and play our A game, I'm confident that we can beat any of the other teams in the tournament. We're currently sitting at a 12-0 record against every other team on the stepladder. So my only concern would be that we don't show up or some inconsistency happens, and I think that's the only way that we would struggle in the playoffs.
In our match versus Gale Force, we currently are at a point where our practice has been going really well. I think we're meshing mechanically really well with each other, and in our match versus GFE, draft will be a big part of the matchup, but I honestly think right now we have the team synergy to just outplay them regardless of comp. Not making it to the mid-season brawl would really suck. My past 2 international performances have been garbage, and I really want to change that. So I'm going to be extremely motivated going into it, and I'm pretty sure my team feels the exact same way. So let's kick some ass.
I think as long as team morale stays good and we trust each other, that we can easily beat any of the teams and make it to the mid-season brawl. I hope at the mid-season brawl we can put up a better performance than we did in Poland. We placed highest out of the NA teams there, but it still didn't feel like a victory for us. We've been close rivals with Gale Force in the past, so it would be nice to be able to beat them. Gale Force has also had hair in the past, so I think there's a lot of things that have changed between this time and the last time we faced them.
The synergy that both Team 8 and Gale Force eSports talked about, Team 8, was on display, on a high display yesterday versus Team Freedom. We got to see things like Justing's Diablo and Glaurung's Medivh, and everybody was playing out of their minds together in one synchronized unit. Cawthon, when you look at Gale Force eSports, are there similar types of picks for Gale Force, like the Diablo for Justing or Medivh for Glaurung, that you think that Team 8 should be fearing, or is it more individual players themselves?
I think that you're going to be seeing way more target bans directed towards Team 8 than directed towards Gale Force. Gale Force is a little more versatile. They have a lot more strategies they're comfortable with on the maps they like. It's harder to ban them out of what they want to do. And it's going to come down a lot to which team is able to get comps they're more comfortable with in the draft, because when you come to a matchup like this where both teams are so familiar with each other, screaming each other all the time, the drafts are going to get really weird just because they have their own metas within those two teams that other teams won't be expecting.
Well, let's take a look at the Battleground pool for HGC. I had some thoughts on what might be banned by the teams. The Braxis I anticipated for Team 8. It just seems like Gale Force eSports is on a whole different level when it comes to Braxis. But I sort of thought we would see Gale Force ban Infernal Shrines. They didn't. Banning Sky Temple instead, Team 8 are happy to pick up Infernal Shrines for their first game. It's looking good for Team 8, at least in Game 1, Dread.
Yeah, it very much is, and this is already very scary because, you know, as you said before, for Gale Force, I think the best odds for Gale Force is Game 1. I think if they can set the tone there, it really could be a big blow to Team 8 in the rest of the series, but the fact that it is so comfortable already on the map for Team 8, I just hope that Gale Force expected this and it's all according to plan. Otherwise, it is very scary.
Yeah, I gotta feel like Gale Force is on the back foot here before any draft or any game has begun. Their best map by far, Braxis, has been removed, and they find themselves in Game 1 on their opponent's best map right off the bat.
Yeah. Oh, man.
What does it say to you guys that Gale Force felt like they, even after seeing a performance on Infernal Shrines yesterday from Team 8, as dominant as it was, no deaths versus Team Freedom, still felt they had to ban Sky Temple? Is it more like that is even more fearsome for them for some reason, or do you think they have some sort of strategy to plan for here?
I would lean more towards lack of confidence in their own play on Sky Temple. I would be very surprised if they developed a specific strategy and chose to target Team 8 on their best map. If they did so, I mean, it's a very gutsy maneuver, so props to them, but I think the Team 8 is in the lead here.
I think the style of map that was banned for Gale Force, it tells a bit more of that story of what was the thought process, more of a lack of confidence in their own play than it was a fear of maybe Team 8 or a master plan of baiting them into taking them to Infernal Shrines, because it was a map that is relevant into the map pool, but it's not like the Warhead Junction, removing something that could be annoying. It wasn't anything that Team 8 is overly outstanding at whatsoever. It was just one that is relevant into the meta, but them not feeling like they're up to par. And so it's just, I know we are yet to see a single hero even selected. It just feels that this series, for some, has already scaled over towards Team 8 somehow.
Well, you could just go back and watch the Team 8 game yesterday versus Freedom on Infernal Shrines. Just get a taste of what Gale Force might be in for. But Gale Force got to see that game just like we did, so they did have time to try to make the necessary adjustments. They've taken Greymane now. They have taken the question mark hero, as Dread likes to call it, one of them. They've banned a new Barak away from Justing, so they're making some changes here.
One thing I would say is they opted not to take away the Medivh from Team 8. Team 8 has shown that they clearly want to play it on this map. They're happy playing it with other tanks other than a Nubarak. Taking the Diablo away, okay, now this move I like.
Yeah.
I was going to say that letting Medivh through the draft speaks more to Gale Force having an actual plan for this situation rather than just winging it. So perhaps a little more in their favor than I thought.
And so yesterday when we were talking about this exact draft rotation for Gale Force eSports, we were talking about that it's not Diablo that is the only fear. Varian is one as well that we've seen teams pay attention to, but the problem is because there's two, you have to pick one if you are going to remove both options. So do we see Gale Force now commit? Just remove the Varian even on a less viable map just because that Medivh?
Are they going to ban Varian or are they going to ban Leoric? That's what I wondered. The Leo taking Dahaka 2. Look how much focus Gale Force has on Team 8 in Game 1. This is crazy. We have been posturing, right? We've been talking about this for a long time. What happens if a team does this exact thing versus Team 8? I'm so excited to find out.
Targeting justing in a draft is not something that we have typically seen over the last year. As an original hipster of the justing hype train, I would like to say that I don't think that these type of bans affect him too much, but seeing his dominance in yesterday's series, it appears that Gale Force really wants to get him off of specific heroes here.
I would completely agree with you, but there was a weird phenomenon that existed at the very beginning of Part 2. When Team 8 was at their weakest was when every second ban was committed towards a hero justing would carry on. When they lost to teams that they were not supposed to, it was always when that second team, remember, we thought it was so strange. Every team was banning a warrior in the second rotation against justing.
But Leo isn't a justing ban. Leo is a Yoda ban.
It's not even at him directly. It would only, but the Diablo taking it away, they're giving some attention here to the, it's very strange.
But Team 8 had the possibility of getting Varian still with Medivh.
Yeah.
Ended up going for Johanna and getting Cassia. So maybe it is that they being Team 8, have for a long time known that this was a possibility. Someone was going to try to do this in a draft and having, okay, what's our backup when this does happen eventually?
And it looks like they're going to be committing more onto Prismat, most likely, as the hyper carry for this game, rather than justing. Cassia with a Medivh shield, always a thing to be feared.
This is brilliant. To take up the Chromie and the Dahaka 2, now leaving, what do we see? I mean, I guess Prismat was going to be on the Cassia and can be effective there, but it's only more and more heroes that Team 8 has legitimately been handed in a lot of ways. Gale Force is finally just done with it. They're not letting them take the 5 heroes traditionally that they always are going to want. They get bits and pieces, but I'm just so satisfied to see a team at least take Team 8 in a draft and get him off those comforts.
Yeah, it looks like we may have underestimated Gale Force's plan for this map a little bit. One thing you'll notice about Gale Force is that they tend to pick Morales in situations where they clearly have some sort of plan prepared for the map.
Who is Yoda playing? Unless they're switching him to Cassia, it surely won't be Medivh for Glaurung. Likely that's Johanna played by Justing.
Wow.
Artanis.
You have the natural blind synergy there with Cassia. Not something I was expecting there. It does add a little bit more pressure to the Chromie, which is nice. The blind is good against Greymane. The synergy with the Cassia. It's a pretty solid overall pick, although not one I was definitely expecting to see. But after seeing the way that the few things that it brings to this draft, pretty good option.
A lot of blind synergy, a lot of sustainability between Malfurion and Medivh too. Johanna and Artanis with blinds too, as long as he wants to go for suppression pulse. Later on, he'll have lots of shielding from himself as well as the help from Medivh. I still am wondering who will be playing what, but we'll get to see that pretty soon. What do you guys think? This is obviously Gale Force eSports bringing it to Team 8 in game number 1. Is it enough for them to claim a victory over Team 8 on Infernal Shrines?
I mean, I'm not totally convinced that compositionally they've built the most well-rounded at their stab towards Team 8, but it is, I think it's enough. Anytime you see a Medivh and Artanis, like it's specifically the Artanis, you know, usually don't have too positive words to say about the hero, especially outside of Battlefield of Eternity. So the fact that they pushed the hero pulls far enough to get an Artanis here shows that it was effective. And that makes me go, yes, they have the tools. It didn't matter. They made enough happen.
Cawthon, what do you think of the Artanis here?
I think it was a good reactionary pick in this situation. I think what we're going to see this game is Gale Force is going to try to snowball off the early game. What they've done is they've tried to take Team 8 off of some of their comforts. They've tried to hit them with an unexpected draft on this map. And with heroes like Chromie and Morales that tend to dominate the early game of uncontested, they're going to look to jump out to a big lead And I think if they get that lead, they could potentially snowball. But I think if they don't have a level plus lead by the time it hits the mid-game 10 onward, I think the teammate will gradually take control of the game and come back and win it.
For Team 8, what would you say the biggest game plan is for them here on this game, guys?
I mean, a lot for me is going to be just trying to control a bit of the shrines. Get value out of Cassia is the most important thing. They don't have too much. Maybe a swap kill here and there if they can, but a lot of it's dancing around, poking, using portals, and waiting for Cassia to have a kill opportunity on a shrine.
Artanis' level 1 talent may tell us a little bit about the direction that teammate wants to take this early game. If he goes for the amateur opponent with extra damage, they may be looking to take on buildings during the immortal phases and split push. If he takes the more team fight-oriented talent at level 1, they may be looking to contest shrines.
Gale Force eSports has obviously opened up with a statement for game number 1, willing to go to Infernal Shrines, even banking on that fact, and then taking away so many of the heroes that have brought teammate success on that battleground and other battlegrounds in particular. What does it mean to these teams if Gale Force is able to get a victory with this?
It's a huge morale blow for Team 8. They've got to feel very confident on the map. Even without the draft maybe being as normal as they're used to, they understand the rotations. They know how to get advantages by sacrificing objectives, as you were talking about yesterday. So if they lose on such a comfort and one that every team has respected them on all throughout HGC, I feel like it means a lot for the series.
Yeah. I think Gale Force is looking to make a big statement with this game 1. It looks like they did, in fact, have that master plan we talked about here. They're giving up teammates' best map, one of their most comfortable heroes with Medivh, and they're looking to take a game off of them right off the bat with both of those and put them in some trouble and a little mental pressure for the rest of the series.
Well, friends, we are just waiting to make sure that all the players are ready to go for this game. Let's look at mid-season brawl as a whole now, too. Obviously, Tempo Storm will be going. The winner of this series will also be going. Cawthon, how do you see North America doing at the mid-season brawl, given especially that you guys have leveled up your play in so many ways since your last showing internationally?
I feel that although our teams in our region, especially our team, have been playing a lot better in Phase 2 than in Phase 1, we have to expect the same from the other regions. We've seen the breakdown of the groups, and so in order for any of the North American teams to finish in the top 2 of their groups, there would have to be a major upset. We're talking taking out one of the Korean teams or the EU teams. So if that happens at all, I think that in itself would be a huge victory for NA. However, even if we don't get top 2 in the group stage, we're not out of the tournament. You still go on through the losers bracket. But I mean, I'm just excited for the opportunity to play against the best again and kind of see where we stand, because we feel like we've gotten better. We expect the same from the other regions. Curious what the gap is at right now. We'll find out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I am super excited for the mid-season brawl too, and very excited to get this game going. We're ready for game number 1 between Gale Force and Team 8. The winner of the series goes to the mid-season brawl.
In the blue on the left is going to be Gale Force eSports. Akaface is going to be playing Lieutenant Morales. Equinox on the front line playing Diablo. Mike Udall, as always, the macro hero. He's got that Dahaka. Crowan on the Chromie, and fans got that Greymane.
Meanwhile, Team 8 coming off of a strong victory yesterday. Bud, support player, playing Malfurion. Justing switching over to play Artanis, with Yoda playing Johanna in this game. Glaurung, as always, playing his Medivh. And finally, Prismaticism once again showing us his Cassia.
So already,
I'm so used to Prismaticism Chromie. Chromie's in a game, it's probably Prismaticism playing it.
It just everything, the stars are aligning for Gale Force eSports right now, because they took a risk with the Infernal Shrines. We've talked about that enough, and we talked about the influence of the draft. But when they see Justing on Artanis and they see Yoda on Johanna, you were thinking, how do we lose this game? Like, we beat them so hard in a draft, and their hero, we finally got to the hero pools. We already see this effect at level 1. They've got to be feeling so very confident.
Yeah, what I assume you're alluding to is the idea that they have had to switch Justing off of the main warrior, putting someone who does not generally play the main warrior, but the secondary on who will be at the front lines, the Johanna. So it's up to Justing to be now there to make the plays with the swaps, which we know that Justing is capable of doing, but it's more about how does Yoda feel on a Johanna? How is his performance going to go? Because he is integral to teammate strategy. They have banked a lot in having this Cassia synergy with all of the blinds, and he enables that.
I think the counter argument to this, nice stun actually, no follow-up CC yet. The biggest thing when looking at that dynamic is the fact that it's Yoda on Johanna. Johanna is already a hero that can be very difficult to be impactful on outside of killing minions, because that's really the only thing you can rely on whenever you draft the Johanna. And so that already, to make Yoda be on a lack of comfort hero, but then it's already hard to be an outstanding performer. But the biggest downside to that is we also put Justin, who is, you know, one of the best players on this roster, on an extremely potentially high impact hero. So it's whether or not that trade-off benefits teammate more than it hurts them.
Yeah, and looking at who will be there to follow up with things like swaps, you've got Buds. So you still have that duo of Justin and Buds to be the ones to be able to synergize off of a kill. After a swap goes down, immediate follow-up with Roots, and Prismaticism can turn around and get a kill with his increased damage to blinded targets.
7 to 8 on those Infernal Shrine Skeletal defenders. Dahaka looking to burrow from behind. He will. Justin's pretty deep, but he's got himself a shield. Nice drag, but the root doesn't let him go anywhere. Nice peel here for Buds. Portal down. Long and friends go through, but it's all about these Skeletal defenders. Almost an even 20.
It is very close between the two teams, but everyone is now here. Teammate has already gotten through the Michael Udall burrow in, so they know that Dahaka is hanging around here. Here goes a chance for a swap. Fan way in the back line.
They end up getting it, but so much damage coming out from Chromie. Crowan just ripping through teammates' health bars, but the Skeletal defenders, 34 to 31. Gale Force looks like the damage output from Crowan, was enough. They have got themselves the Punisher.
The swap put Fan in the backline, yes, but everybody immediately grouped around that. And that was a Dragon's Eye, Dragon's Breath. This time, not a Mobius Loop. This is far more damage if you can hit someone in the center. And there's only one Force of Will, and you've got Malfurion heals, which take a little while to ramp up. So Teammate had to give up this Punisher. They will clear it up very quickly. They have Amateur opponent with Artanis to bring that down and fast.
The rest of the pressure on the map in the 1v1 has not been, too active. It's a little interesting. Obviously, Johanna's not a global, and we see so many people having to face Dahaka up in the solo lane, but Johanna's one of the few that actually wave clear nearly as fast as him, to the point where Dahaka isn't really going to have any effect in that top lane. Most of the solo laners that end up matching him, eventually Dahaka can add up. So it's really, does Gale Force use the global aspect of Dahaka? Because if Johanna's matching it, there's no macro wave clear benefit from having that Dahaka up there.
Both teams picking up what mercenary camps they can. Gale Force eSports slightly ahead in that, able to get the bottom camp too. Nobody touching their Shaman camp just yet. We're looking at an invade though with the 7 advantage.
Portal's off cooldown for a couple more seconds too. Nice flip attempt. The Root's looking to zone. Prismat fell low, but he got a Force of Will. Yoda took a lot of damage there in the front, and that is now a camp going over to Gale Force eSports. It's pretty early, but luckily it's going to stack with the other Khazra camps, so maybe front wall damage here for GFE.
Using that little bit of extra 7 to apply pressure to Team 8. Dahaka even brush-talking in for that, though. Not able to get any kills along with it, but at least stealing the camp away, not allowing Team 8 to get into where they feel comfortable in the battleground, having this macro pressure that's constantly toward Gale Force eSports, and that's key for Gale Force.
And we're yet to see a moment where Team 8 pulls ahead through an objective decision. If they can on the next rotation, it will play towards the strengths and the fear a lot of teams have of Team 8 here on Infernal Shrines. 10 seconds, and we're going to have ourselves the next Punisher possible. The Shaman camp's going to match even up on top, so it's legitimately near even. The only difference is going to be Dahaka with that side soak, but again, Johanna is there to match.
I wondered if Team 8 would try to give up this shrine. I've seen them do that sometimes. They have the Shaman camp up top, but so does Gale Force eSports. So far haven't alluded to wanting to do that, just having Johanna be there as the way of matching Dahaka. But remember, and Team 8 has to remember, that at any moment, Dahaka can brush talk in, whereas Johanna, especially if Dahaka has forced Johanna to be all the way in the bottom lane, then that's a huge amount of time where Gale Force will have the man advantage. And they also have Chromie's Heroic too.
Yeah, that's a nice advantage there as you see the slowing sands, making it less appealing here for Team 8 to move up. The 10 race is still so very close, but the Skeletal defenders aren't as close. 21 here for GFE, as Team 8 has just now managed to achieve 5 of those. Johanna and Dahaka, neither is looking to make it up towards this top lane, which means essentially teammate has no interest of the Punisher itself. Now rotating away from the top lane, they're going to go back to mid. It's all down to how much can Gale Force make happen with their 10s, with this Punisher itself, and open up some more of the map.
I do have to say, just looking at the movements of Team 8, they seem to be a little bit flustered on what to do here.
Yeah.
They went all the way up with a ton of people. They were late to the party. They sat around in Slowing Sands for a little bit, and Gale Force eSports got way far ahead with the Skeletal Defenders. Then they started to rotate down, like maybe we could try to siege somewhere. No, it's too late. We need to be able to defend. Now Justing's going to get hit. He uses Blade Dash, but Equinox catches him on the upswing. Force of Will's there, a portal too. Teammate can get themselves out, they can keep themselves alive, but so far they can't get a hold of this map.
But they might be able to here with that portal. Buds goes through, Leyline Seal landing on the 3, and the fort is not dead. There is a root. The second they get out, APOC goes down, only landing on to 2. Nobody dead yet. Twilight Dream is used. Dahaka falling so low, and he is down. Gale Force down a member, and it looks like Crowan almost going down too. He does. 3 people dead for GFE.
Man, I was wondering when the Twilight Dream was going to be used, but finally using it after the APOC to make sure that they could take out Dahaka. And that was the first kill needed to start the momentum swing for Team 8. Getting 3 kills after that. Let's break it down again. Here they go. Nice Leyline Seal to start things off. You can see Bud step up like, should we? But he gets stunned out there again, and then he gets the Force of Will and APOC. Then using Twilight Dream, but at that point, adaptation, things like that had already been used for Dahaka to try to stay alive. He was just so far in the back line. And then, of course, teammate doing what they love to do, portal plays.
And we got to see a bit of the struggle of watching Lieutenant Morales trying to heal through that lightning ball there, just bouncing back and forth as Chromie's health wasn't affected, but Akaface was so heavily impacted there by that lightning ball. It's one, again, like, it's a new and improved kind of version, more RNG-based version of that purifying beam strategy. It's so neat to watch that kind of interaction. I'll try and keep track in the next team fight whether or not it really does limit Akaface's ability to sustain up his team.
Yeah, forcing him to get back so that he doesn't keep spreading that and basically undoing everything he's trying to do by healing up his teammates.
It'll be a tense one here. 13 is going to be achieved for Team 8. In the next couple of seconds, only 1 fort. As I say that, 2 forts now on the map end up going down, both up there on top.
You know, we talked about what kind of a statement it would be if Gale Force is able to win this game, but I think it is equally a statement if Team 8 is able to win despite being denied so many of their high prioritized picks.
So it hits one of these 1 of 2 situations where it's like, it's either the one, catching somebody out, Fan, does he get the disengage? He does. APOC is used. It doesn't land on anybody, but Fan is already dead. Twilight Dream used. Buds ends up falling. A 2-for-1 trade, but Gale Force has the advantage.
Yeah, the Twilight Dream was used, but Akaface is there healing everyone up. These 2 tanky heroes in the front line cannot be stopped. Prismaticism now under fire from all of Gale Force. Justin would love to be there to help save, but there's no portals. Medivh was already down. Now Slowing Sands is used. The grenade is on point. Justin will be the next to fall.
Aka's got the Ollie, and Equinox has got the Oop there. Another kill set up for Gale Force eSports, and this is going to be one easy Skeletal Defender pickup for that Punisher. I'd like to see them attend towards that bottom lane a bit more, put some focus on that with this advantage they have on the Skeletal Defenders to try and, again, opening up the map whenever you can on Infernal Shrines can be so very great, just because those Punishers aren't the best at necessarily sieging on their own. So if you can ever get a free structure in the lane where you know it's going to be going, it is a nice pickup here. But at least they'll have Shaman Camp to be split pushing at the exact same time.
Teammate is also getting their Shaman Camp. Whenever there's a Medivh that goes down, the first thing I have to check is if stacks were lost. And in this case, Glaurung did lose his Master's Touch stacks. Not something that I normally say about Glaurung.
Yeah, that is
and it's
another variable.
Late too. They're already at level 14. Losing that is rough.
And you know, you brought it up before. If Teammate was to win, how much credit going to them and everything they like? Because this being on the map, you would say Gale Force has absolutely no chance, but I would agree with you. I think Gale Force did so much research, and Teammate knows it hurt them so well that if Teammate has that mental fortitude to remain into the series after this game, or even throughout this game, I agree. It means so much for them as well. Both of these teams want to set the tone and win game 1 of this best of 5.
This is going to be one of the tough points for Team 8. Gale Force eSports are almost 16, but Team 8 is about to clear out the Punisher. Team 8 needs to get 16 and try to force a fight before they do get down talent tiers for a long time. The 16, the 20 spikes, those are very difficult to deal with, especially when you have the Punishers constantly popping up. Thankfully, Team 8 has 1 fort left. They haven't lost a keep. They just need to get 16. They need to not lose anybody else. They need to start getting some picks to get back in this game.
16 has been achieved for Gale Force, but there's no major objective for them to force with that advantage. Their composition isn't necessarily the best at sieging. Chromie, you know, she's good at sieging because she pokes down the opponents, but her damage output on the structures themselves aren't that great. It's always with those ranged high burst onto structure heroes like a KT that you can make that happen, or even those Sergeant Hammers. So it really just lets teammate kind of be like, thanks for the free 16. We'll conveniently take that one unless they catch themselves a Yoda. Iron Skin already down, Gilly. That's not looking good.
No, especially as Drag was still available for Gale Force eSports to lock down the kill after the fact. So Gale Force claims another Team 8 life. And again, just in the nick of time, right before Team 8 would get 16 and want to immediately force. Now they have to wait for their Johanna.
They have to wait for the JoJo. So what does Gale Force do with this downtime? A bit of pressure on mid. Looks like it's going to be the concern for now. Thankfully, Akaface has got the healing beam, can tank some of those shots. Equinox has shown himself, though, so they know it's a 4-1 split. The camp on bottom doing a bit of work. You know, you got to respect his effort. He's got the hustle, but in the end, it's a keep. Those things they're pretty tough. Not going to be too nice for that. We're yet to see JoJo with the 16, though. What are we thinking about? What is Yoda considering?
I'm wondering if it's a self-sustain.
Yeah, going with the heal onto the blind itself. Into poke compositions, it works really, really well. Between Chromie and Greymane, I don't think it's unreasonable to take it.
Could get Blessed Hammer, has the movement speed boost on Condemn already. Using Blessed Hammer to just get into position 2 is a possibility, but there's also Imposing Presence. Imposing Presence was the choice. So trying to slow down those attacks from the team once they're in the heat of the fire, the heat of the battle. The heat of the fire.
Yeah, the
That's
heat.
a new one.
Yeah, it is a new one, but you know, we'll find out what's going to be happening over this shrine phase. Is really cool. Gale Force has the Dahaka considering through bottom, but they've been pushing this fort on mid. The response for teammate, they're completely split. This is terrible. Fan all caught out on his own. Akaface has the heals. The lightning ball actually died. Leyland Seal is only going to land onto the healer. Nice drag on to Glorung. He falls so low and he's down.
He is out of here, and that is a lot of sustain already gone, a lot of damage too. Yoda's going to try to come in and help the team, adjusting low, gets his shielding, starting to be able to heal up or shield himself from that. Nobody has fallen from Gale Force eSports though. Equinox shows up, slams Cassia into the wall. 3 kills so far for Team 8, and it is looking like it should be a 4th.
Gale Force eSports turning it up here in this first game. 4 people dead. Medevac is almost immediate, and they are ready for the first keep of the game.
Buds is going to be here, but I'm sorry to say, I don't think there is much you can do in this situation, Buds. Stay alive until the rest of the team is back in action to help you out. Keep is down. Medivh will be back in 3, so 30 seconds until Johanna because of the staggered death. Trying to buy some time for the team to get back.
Now, Gale Force with the 20 advantage. They've got this Punisher has already been set up. They can get all the camp pressure with their 4-man if they would like. You know, they can volunteer to pick up this Punisher. So I would like to see them just make sure they stagger at least 2 mercenary camps between that Trinity down below with this Punisher up on top with the 20 advantage, and then just all in at some point with those 20s.
I love the Anderhall anomaly pickup for Chromie at level 20 between Justing's Blade Dash trying to look for swaps and then even Medivh trying to drop down and be aggressive in the front line. There's a lot of ways that Chromie can not only keep herself safe, but then keep the team safe too, catching somebody and then everyone being able to jump on after those time traps in, repositioning, giving them some time.
Team 8 has managed to get enough skeletal defenders that they might be able to snipe this Punisher. They're only 5 away, and their level 20s are online. APOC is already used. It ends up going and hitting only one. Beautiful cleanse coming out from Buzz to keep his team up. Twilight Dream going there and only landing on to Mike Udall. He's got the heals. He's keeping himself up.
Mike Udall also was able to Tunneling Claws away from the swap. Equinox is going to go down, but he will be back in time for the defense of this. But now the Punisher is here, and Teammate is feeling the pressure. They want to take somebody else down. There were two inside of this medevac, and Team 8 will take out both of them.
They've got 2 people down, so a 3-man defense squad for Gale Force eSports, as this is a 16-minute Punisher that's going to be moving in. 20 is still going to be out of the question for a long while, even up until the keep itself is taken out here for Team 8. But they have enough that they can stagger these deaths, and if they do, they could get this keep.
They don't have the 20, and this is Chromie damage. It's so important that they can limit that or put that on the right people, the right targets. Yoda steps forward, trying to start the damage for this this keep. Punisher's looking for a jump too, punching the towers, so not helping Teammate too much, but at least they're keeping him here too. They're keeping him healthy.
Oh, they're
Teammate
going for
wants
it.
to continue this. It's 22 seconds left, Dread, until Lieutenant Morales is back in action.
And 45% they're on to the Punisher itself. Buzz takes a lot of damage. He's falling low, but the shielding has already been removed. Leyline Seal hits the 2. Punisher comes in, gets the stun, 80% and counting. It is ticking away, but there's catapults on the other side. 50. It is looking like Team 8 can do this in the first game. 19, 15, and that is it. Team 8 takes game 1 over Gale Force eSports.
They were massively behind, and they win a team fight down 20, getting to the shrine faster. What a statement Teammate has made, getting through the draft that was very focused on trying to make them not comfortable, make them not be able to even play. It's basically saying, you can't play if we take these heroes away. And they did it. Cawthon, what have you got for us? What do you think?
Almost nothing. That game went the way I expected it to. Pre-10, I expected Gale Force to push their advantage really hard. They ended up with 0 kills. They did control the pace of the game and get a slight lead. But as we talked about beforehand, that lead meant nothing because as soon as Teammate got 10, they won a huge team fight, took control of the game. I was like, okay, they're going to ride it out. Gale Force just getting picks all over the map somehow after 10 instead of before 10. Ride out a 3-level lead, reset the Master's touch stacks constantly. I actually thought that they were going to go for core when they opened up that bottom keep there near the end of the game. I was thinking they were going to go for core there. They opted to pull back and instead take a safe 20-17 fight up top, and then they lost the game.
It ended up not being a safe 20-17 fight at all. What happened in that fight? What was it?
I mean, okay, so what Gale Force eSports, the thought processes was, we're almost 20. There's no way they'll worry about the objective itself. They kind of pitter-pattered around the map itself, not really figuring out. They weren't definitive in their rotations, right? I was talking about, oh, there's a trinity of camps they could worry about. They know that it's going to be spawning in 15 seconds. They're worried about the 20, and they went for a little bit of everything, but because they split their resources, the entire time it gave a 19 into 20, and then once they hit 20, all of a sudden 35 skeletal defenders, and they find themselves on top of the Punisher itself. They panic, they force an initiation, you go, we have 20 advantage, no chance we end up losing this, and then even with 20s, if you start a terrible fight, it is going to end terribly.
Yeah, it did seem panicked.
Yeah, the kind of heroes they have, the positioning going into a fight is still more important than any talent tier advantage you're going to have, and we really saw the results of that in that last fight.
Well, that is game number